morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to be taking a little bit of a look at a bunch of new Pokemon. You see those V-decks over in Japan? I've shown you all the new Pokemon Vs, and we all got a little bit excited, and it was all lots of fun. But there were actually a few other cards that are brand new in those sets, and I don't think any of them are out and out stunningly amazing, but I do think they are absolutely worth our consideration. So let's have a gander, shall we? And we might as well start off. I should mention all of our translations here come from the lovely Joe over at Cerebi.net, and a massive shout out to the lovely Primal Lugia for checking my list and making sure I had all of the new ones on here. So starting off with Beedrill then, we've got 140 HP stage 2, which is low. And we got a single attack here that for 1 grass energy does 80 damage plus poison. Okay. I mean, there are things you can do here. We do have that Toxicroak from Sword and Shield that adds 2 damage counters on for poison, but between turns, and it can add up fairly quickly. But the reality is you're not really hitting anything terribly relevant for weakness. And even though 80 plus poison for 1 energy sounds good, even against something like a Blacephalon or an Excadrill, you're still actually not going to be that close to getting a KO. Now, only joking, Excadrill you will because of the weakness. But if you weren't hitting for weakness on 140 HP Pokemon, that would be pretty bad. And that's kind of my point here. It's just awkward, ladies and gentlemen. It's just awkward. Now, Centiskorch is a Pokemon that I absolutely love as a Pokemon. We've got 130 HP, which is getting a little bit better at this stage, so that's quite nice. And we got 2 attacks. One that for free energy does 50 damage plus burn, which is fine, but we don't have our burn things anymore. Well, Volcano Park, Infernape, they gone. We don't have them right now to take extra advantage of burn. So you're left not being amazing. I mean, you're not even close to getting a Zacian V, even if you're hitting for weakness. You're not getting a Rillaboom if you're hitting for weakness, which you will be. It's kind of awkward. Now, as for the second attack, 4 energy, 140 damage. I mean, look, you will get some KOs here. Against pretty much any single prize Pokemon, you will get a KO. Against Zacian or Zamazenta V, you will get KOs. But then again, even if you start looking at something like a Rillaboom V Max, you're hitting for weakness, you're attaching 4 energy, and you're 50 damage away from a KO. So you're not doing quite enough damage. It's a very expensive attack. I mean, sure, you've got Welder, and Welder will help you to accelerate energy. And to be fair, you can actually go Welder Twin Energy and get this rolling in a single turn, energy-wise. I'm just not entirely convinced you're necessarily going to want to. And I do see this as a problem. I mean, if you want a Stage 1 Pokemon that is fire to start popping energy on, Arcanine for free energy does 120 and accelerates 2 energy, and for 4 energy does 190, though it does do 50 to itself. Just play Arcanine. Sorry. Sharpedo is probably my favourite Pokemon we're going to talk about during this video. Sharpedo comes in with a nice low retreat cost of 1, so hello U-turn board. Yeah, the HP is 110, which for a Stage 1 is lower than we might like. But for a single water energy, you do 50 to the active and 20 to one of your opponent's bench. Well, bearing in mind in the past, we've liked stuff like Manectric, that does 20 and 20, and Xerneas that does 20 and 20, and Buzzwole that does 30 and 30, all of which incidentally gave up more than 1 prize when KO'd. Surely we can get behind 50 and 20, and especially for a single energy, and hitting a pretty nice weakness. And the answer very simply is, it's a Stage 1. It's a turn 2 slow. The Pokemon I've mentioned before were great turn 1 options. Sharpedo isn't. If I go second and I can start doing 50 to the active, 20 to the bench from turn 1, we can talk. But the other sad thing is here, you're not even getting a KO on a Volcanion, though if you want to add a Vitality Band, you actually would, and that would be super relevant, because if I can start getting KOs on all these Volcanion, while spreading a bit of damage around, and worth noting, if you do 20 to a bench Volcanion, you then don't need a Vitality Band to KO one when it comes into the active, yeah, okay, we can get behind that. But the reality of the situation is, it's just a turn too slow as a stage 1. I love the attack, but I want to do it turn 1 going second. Now, Ampharos is quite nice, given, of course, that we did look at Ampharos V, I believe, I want to say it was yesterday, which is kind of nice. And it's got 150 HP, which, to be fair, is still low for a stage 2. The example I always use is Dragonite back in the Sun and Moon base set had 160. And that became standard for a while, and now we're getting this for like 150. No! Boo! Etc. And we've got a bad weakness because so much good stuff is fighting weak right now. But you do actually have the same attack as Ampharos V, but for 1 less energy. 1 lightning energy, 50 damage plus confusion. So the usual thing here, you whack Gallo-Mine down, your opponent's retreat cost is increased by 2, the chances are they're not actually going to be able to retreat, and then you make them flip for confusion. If they flip tails, they take 3 damage counters, don't get an attack, and it's back to you. Yay! But the thing is, it's a stage 2. The reason I liked it on Ampharos V was because using Tapu Koko Prism Star, you could basically make it a turn 1 attack, and that would be lovely. Not an option here. Oh. And that's basically where we end up. It's a nice attack, but it's on a stage 2. 2 energy, 130, again, is fine. You'll get most single prize Pokemon, but there's nothing that relevant that's weak to lightning at the moment. And maybe the best of them is Lapras V Max, but you're not even really close to getting a KO on that, even with weakness. And you just end up with a Pokemon which is probably best described as underwhelming. I think the artwork of him lazing under a tree is phenomenal. Love the art. It's one of my favourite artworks we've seen in the past few sets. I just think for a stage 2, even a low energy stage 2, I still expect a little bit more. Now, Hatterene is a nice, interesting one. It's got an ability. And it's also got the low 150 HP, etc. Boo! And weakness to darkness, which is about to get really bad. And the ability says, when this Pokemon takes damage from attacks, even if it is knocked out, the attacking Pokemon is now confused. So it's another one of those. It's another one of those abilities that basically makes you pay for attacking. But do you want to give up a prize for confusion? I mean, honestly, if you really desperately want this, play Ear Ringing Bell. It is exactly the same, but it is as a tool that can be attached to any Pokemon. Boom. Now you don't need to play this expensive stage 2. For 2 energy, you do 100 damage and heal 30, but you got fairly low HP for a stage 2, and you got a bad weakness, so I'm not even convinced you particularly want to get excited about healing the 30. And again, it's not a bad Pokemon by any stretch of the imagination. It's just not a good Pokemon. It's just, as I like to phrase it, aggressively fine. No one's going to get upset about it, but I don't think anyone's going to be rushing to play it, unfortunately. And to be honest with you, right, if you really want to play Hatterene, don't forget we got the really nice one in Rebel Clash that for 1 energy puts 1 damage counter on your opponent's active for each Pokemon in your discard pile, and has an ability that makes both players discard a card from their hand. Hopefully you discard a Pokemon to do more damage, and they have to discard a card they'd rather not. I'm not saying don't play Hatterene, but I think I am saying don't play this Hatterene. Now, Lycanroc comes along as a fighting Pokemon, and given that we've got all that stuff, like Eternatus VMAX, which is weak to fighting, we want some good fighting Pokemon here. Does this qualify? 1 colourless energy, 30 damage is not great on a stage 1, if I'm honest with you. Sorry. And then 2 fighting, 1 colourless energy, 150, and you can't use it next turn, is almost good. Because you see, there's plenty of stuff out there like Pikachu and Zekrom where you will be getting a KO, but then Eternatus VMAX, you're not. You need to be doing 170 to get a KO, and you can do it, incidentally. Martial Arts Dojo, if you are behind on prizes, puts you up to 190. If you're not behind on prizes, puts you up to 160, and Vitality Band puts you up to 170, and then you are getting a KO. But the problem is, fighting energy is hard to accelerate. And this has 120 HP, and it's probably not going to take a hit. And I either want to be using low energy fighting Pokemon, something like Excadrill, or I want to be using something like Regirock, where, okay, fine, it's a lot of energy, but at least I've got a little bit of bulk behind it. Although Regirock V has not proven to be all that great, unfortunately. And I don't think this Lycanroc is either. With decent energy acceleration, we would be able to play this much more easily, and I'd love it. If it was one fighting, two colourless, and I could use a combination of Karate Belt and Twin Energy to pay it in a single turn, yes, I'd be liking it. But not as it is. Arbok, I almost don't want to spend any time at all on Arbok. Arbok only gets into the video because it's the first Darkness-type Arbok we've ever seen. Because Poison have just become Darkness in the TCG, and this is the first Arbok since that change was made. So yay, Arbok! But the card is garbage. 1 energy, 30 damage, 2 energy, 70 damage, no. And it's not even a basic Pokemon. It is very, very rare that I find a Pokemon and I look at it and I go, no, that's just bad. But I'm sorry, I'm looking at Arbok and I'm going, no, sorry, that's just bad. And I'm not spending any more time on it. But there is a Melmetal. Yay! Melmetal VMAX will be along at some point. Melmetal's got 150 HP, which is big for a stage 1. And Melmetal's got a retreat cost of 4, which means you can use buff padding to give it even more HP. That's if you don't want to use something like Metal Goggles as a metal Pokemon, which you might wish to do so. So you're not really struggling to get a bit of bulk on here. And then for a single energy, you got 30 damage, plus you get to accelerate an energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. It's sad that very little is weak to metal. If you could get a KO while doing that, it'd be amazing. And then for 4 energy, you do 130 damage. But of course, what you're really doing here is turn 1, you attach, and then you get an energy back onto it, and then turn 2, you pop a Twin Energy on, and you're hitting for 130. The problem is, of course, that you're a stage 1, so you're basically talking turn 3. And we've talked about this in this video already. 130 ain't that great. 130 is fine if you're taking out single prize Pokemon, but it's not good. Even if you're hitting something like Weakness, okay, fine, I suppose you'll get Gardevoir V, but you won't get Gardevoir V Max. And we kind of want to get Gardevoir V Max, which I still think could be kind of good. And we're just left with one more Pokemon, like pretty much all of the ones in this video, which is just underwhelming. Except Arbok. Arbok is bad. And I don't think there's anything offensive against Melmetal here. It's got quite a bit of bulk, it's hard to KO, it accelerates energy to itself, it does a decent amount of damage. But the fact of the matter is, it's very expensive, doesn't do quite as much damage, and being a stage 1 is at least a turn too slow. I like Melmetal and I want this to be good, but I think, like the rest of the Pokemon in this video, you look at it and go, maybe in a pre-release or a sealed tournament, maybe I can make some use out of it. What we've essentially got here is just a whole bunch of Pokemon that are almost good enough. Lots of, hey, I can KO basic Pokemon, or, single prize Pokemon. Don't try chucking multiple prize Pokemon at me. Lots of special conditions. And lots of interesting Pokemon. But I worry not necessarily lots of good Pokemon. But maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe you can look at some of these cards and go, Wassy, you're being too cruel. Here is how I would use this Pokemon. And if you want to say things along those lines, you can do so in the comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.